In the warm hush before dawn settled over the barns and fields of Klang Valley, a young man named Horace moved silently between the milking stalls. The earthy scent of hay mingled with the sharp, sweet smell of morning dew, and the only sounds were the soft plodding of cows and the distant chorus of crickets subsiding in the tall grass. Harris had always found comfort in the routine, the rhythm of turning soil, brushing hides, and arranging feed, with the gentle push and pull of the countryside guiding his days. Yet, beneath his steady demeanor, worry had begun to creep in like weeds among his father's tomato vines. The farm, inherited and stubborn, was in trouble. Last season's floods had ruined the lower fields, chicken pox swept through the hen house, and as of last month, creditors had begun to call. But Harris kept his worries tethered. There was too much to do, pens to mend, animals to tend, until one morning he noticed something new and strange in the corner where the rafters met the hayloft. A silvery web, spun fine and shining, stretched between two beams, and in its center sat a golden orb spider, no bigger than a coin, perfectly still in the early light. Curiosity got the best of him. "Hello, little friend," he murmured, moving closer. The spider didn't move. Instead, it remained suspended in the center of its perfect web, a fragile masterpiece above the barn's clutter and dust. Over the next few days, Harris began to make visiting the spider part of his routine. Each morning he would greet her, noting how expertly she rebuilt her web after each night's storms or wind-blown debris. She became a silent companion to his labor, her presence a small comfort in the vast, uncertain quiet. One afternoon, as rain tapped on the tin roof above and thunder rolled low over the hills, Horace discovered the village schoolchildren had gathered by the barn. From the hushed crowd emerged Mei Lin, his neighbor's daughter, her wide eyes fixed on the animals inside. "They say you're selling the cows, Harris," she whispered, careful not to spook the livestock. He looked away, the sting of defeat coloring his voice. "We might have to. Times are hard." Maylin's gaze darted up to the shadowed beams, following Horace's usual path. "What about your helper?" she asked, pointing to the spider's web. Horace smiled despite himself. "She's not for sale, and she's not much for milking." The rain pounded harder, and the barn doors rattled in the gale. Maylin hesitated, then handed Horace a small package, a bundle of woven pandan leaves with sticky rice inside. "For luck," she said softly. "Thank you," he replied, surprise warming his voice. As the group dispersed, Horace lingered in the barn, his gaze returning to the spider weaving her endless lace. That night, the first creditors returned with their clipboards and sharp questions, their voices echoing through the house. Horace felt the weight of every acre pressing down on him, heavier than any burden he'd ever lifted. At dawn, he found himself again at the hayloft, drawn to the delicate masterpiece of silk above the stalls. This time, he noticed something different woven into the web, something that made him blink and step back in disbelief. Across the shining strands of silk, clear as the dew, was a single word, hope. Harris stared, uncertain whether fatigue or the early light was playing tricks on him, but as he drew closer, he saw the web glittered unmistakably with that simple promise. For a long moment, he stood in the sweet, musty air, his heart racing, unsure of what to believe. The spider, still and golden, sat just above the woven word, as if waiting for his response. Word spread quickly. Meadow larks carried tales to the schoolyard. Maylin brought her mother and two sisters, then the neighbors followed. Soon, people from all corners of Klang Valley were craning their necks in Horace's barn, whispering about miracles. No one knew how it had happened. Some claimed divine magic, others marveled at nature's mysteries. But each morning, as if by secret arrangement, the spider's web bore a new message. Kindness. Together. Believe. And each day, more people arrived bearing gifts. Bushels of mangoes, sacks of feed, seedlings, and even a pair of calves from a distant uncle. When the mayor himself stopped by, he declared, "If ever a farm and its keeper deserved a second chance, it is this one." The farm, once too quiet, pulsed with life and laughter again. Children ran races among washing lines, elders shared wisdom over hot tea beneath the banyan tree, and above it all, the spider spun her intricate, thoughtful, unwavering. Maylin came often, sitting beside Horace to help repair fences or weed tomato rows, the two of them newly united by their silent companion in the rafters. Slowly, debts were paid, and the darkness that had hung over the farm began to lift. It was not just the help or the generosity that saved the place, but a kind of quiet transformation. The spider's web, delicate but strong, became a symbol for the community itself, connected, resilient, full of words that when spun together could hold even the heaviest burdens aloft. One morning, not long after the last debt had been repaid, Horace found the rafters empty. The spider had moved on, perhaps to another place in need of hope. But above the hayloft, her final web remained, catching the golden morning sunlight. It read, "Friends." Horace smiled at the word. He turned to find Maylin standing nearby, her eyes bright, the whole valley bustling with the sound of work and laughter beyond them. And with that, in the heart of Klang Valley, under the watchful gaze of the silk above, Horace felt certain that hope and friendship had come home for good.